And if you are watching this and you're wondering why I'm wearing a headset, because I normally don't on our Facebook live feeds, it's because we are also simulcasting this live on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. You can search us on YouTube, which is BTC, Behind the Steel Curtain Radio. Steelers radio, I should say. That's where it is. But here we're talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers Week 4 win over the Baltimore Ravens at M&T Bank Stadium. And if you read the recap article that I wrote, the headline says it all for me, and that is that they broke the M&T Bank curse. This is a team, the Steelers haven't won in M&T Bank Stadium since 2012, and that was the day that Charlie Batch, not Ben Roethlisberger, led the Steelers to victory. Everyone remembers that Heath Miller beautiful touchdown catch, and he stretches to hit the pylon. It hadn't been since 2010 that Ben Roethlisberger had actually won at M&T Bank Stadium. So for the Steelers, all thumbs up there. Everyone should be giving a thumbs up to the video at that point because they win 26-9. Now, was it perfect? Absolutely not. It was not perfect because ultimately the Steelers offense, which came out looking remarkable in the first half, they were imposing their will on the Baltimore Ravens defense. They were able to stretch the field in terms of keeping these long, time-consuming drives. In the second half, it just all came apart. It wasn't that that it came apart based on the fact that the Pittsburgh Steelers, in my opinion, got extremely predictable in their play calling. Every single drive, and I'd have to go back and look it up, and I'll probably do that this week for the website, behindthesteelcurtain.com, is look and see, did they ever not give the ball to Le'Veon Bell on first down, or did they maybe not give it to Ronner? Did see some time. He looked very good, by the way, when in his limited time on there on the field. But they went with more run-heavy packages. You know, B.J. Finney was on the field as an extra tight end. That's something that Chris Hubbard used to do, but Hubbard was filling in at right tackle for Marcus Gilbert. You saw a lot more Roosevelt Nix, and surprise, surprise, 35 rushes for Le'Veon Bell, and they have 140-plus yards on the ground with Bell alone, 2 rushing touchdowns for Bell. He also had 4 receptions for over 40 yards. A great day. He almost amassed 200 yards from scrimmage, but he did not get that. He was close, but not quite. But still, a tremendous performance, in my opinion, by Le'Veon Bell. He looked back. Everyone was saying, well, what's wrong with Le'Veon Bell? Well, he finally looked back. And when I say back, I mean, he looked like he was back to his old form, the 2014 Le'Veon Bell that we all got used to seeing. But you know what? Now's the chance, wherever you're watching this, if you want to leave a comment, go ahead and do so. If you have a question, let's talk about this win. Who impressed you? Who didn't impress? I just posted our winners and losers column on BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, so I would definitely have you check that out. A couple winners from that list, and someone already said it. Brian says, Shazier was great today. You bet he was. The one thing I'm learning about Ryan Shazier, and it's not that it's breaking news here, is that, in my opinion, Ryan Shazier is an all-or-nothing type player. He could be tremendous, and he could be really, really bad. So week 3 against the Chicago Bears, he was really, really bad. He was when he shot the hole, he was certainly not making the plays that we're accustomed to seeing him make, or that he's capable of making. But in week 4, here against the Ravens, you saw the all Ryan Shazier. He was all over the place. He racked up 11 tackles, 10 of them solo tackles, had 2 pass defenses, interception of his own. He created that interception from Mike Hilton in the fourth quarter. Tremendous play by Ryan Shazier. As Hayward, yes, Cameron Hayward was on my winners list for sure. He was all over the field. He was dominant. He was making plays left and right. It's fun to see Cam Hayward back on the football field. When he got injured last year in 2016 with a torn pectoral muscle, you almost forgot how good he was. You almost forgot that Cam Hayward is a first-round draft pick, someone that ultimately is a difference maker on this defense. And with him and Tuitt also made my winners list. They are a dominant force up front. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't still issues. They did give up 2 huge runs, and it's a lot. It's a step in the right direction, I guess, in terms of the stretch run. And they're going to have 2 really, really backs coming into Heinz Field next week in the Jacksonville Jaguars with Chris Ivory and Leonard Fournette. We'll talk about that coming up, but let's talk more about this game. Bill says the Gravedigger, he's talking about Javon Hargrave, that he needs more credit. Javon Hargrave gets a ton of credit. In my opinion, he doesn't need the credit. He needs to play more. I'd love to see them utilize him more, and his ability to get push on the interior of the offensive line is very, very big, very, very important. So for me, I agree with you. Yeah, he does deserve more credit, but ultimately, I think that Javon Hargrave, I'd like to see the defense get him get him on the field more. A winner. Mike Hilton was definitely a winner for me. And like I said, this article has already been published on BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, so go there and check that out, and you can see my full list. I think I had 6 winners and 4 losers after today. Mike Hilton is absolutely a winner. He got his first NFL sack and his first NFL interception. And I did this to this on our Twitter page. If you don't follow us on Twitter, I highly recommend you do. It's at BT SteelCurt, have a Twitter handle of themselves. For me, Mike Hilton is like a Cinderella story. And this is a guy that was not expected to make the team. He was just thought to be another camp body. The website is large as BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. It comes down to sometimes you see these roster moves in the offseason, and some don't even require an article. You just kind of mention it on social media and say, yeah, they did this, they did that, but I is doing everything that his former teammate, Sanquez Golson, who was a second-round draft pick, was supposed to be doing. A lot of football. He's showing tremendous pass coverage capabilities. He's probably one of the best blitzing cornerbacks the Steelers have had in the last, maybe the last decade. He has a knack for making plays. And so that's really good to see, because the Steelers, when they have that slot cornerback that can really cover those slot receivers and sometimes even a tight end, it allows their outside cornerbacks to be able to do more of their own thing. The safeties don't have to pinch down. It just makes the defense more sound. He's very, very good. I was really happy to see Mike Hilton play well. He continues to get better, and he's only going. It just seems like a tremendous pickup for the Steelers. It almost feels like every year they kind of pick up off a dump heap that comes onto the field and starts making a lot of plays. So Mike Hilton, we had a question here. More impressive, Mike Hilton or Juju Smith-Schuster? That's a really good question. Both of these guys made my winners list. I actually Juju Smith-Schuster, before the game, the inactive list was released, and Eli Rogers was on it. And my first immediate thought was, you hear so much during the week about Juju Smith-Schuster, and the Steelers, for as tight-lipped as they are, they're very transparent. When they talk about a player ad nauseum and how they applaud his work ethic and how the game's not big enough and they keep throwing more stuff at them, when they do stuff like that, accident. And so the Pittsburgh Steelers, Juju Smith-Schuster, and he went out, and Eli Rogers was inactive, and I said to myself, said it on Twitter, and to those that I speak to regularly, like Lance Williams on our Wednesday podcast, that ultimately this chance to prove something today. Now, he didn't go out and light it up, but you know what he did? He had 3 catches. One of them was a touchdown. Several of them were huge third down conversions. If this isn't a team as a rookie, then that's great. I don't know what to think about the Eli Rogers being inactive. This is the same guy that was benched for an entire game last year against the Patriots. Don't forget that. It'll be interesting to see how they manipulate their receivers. Justin Hunter got a helmet today. Eli Rogers did not. Will they stick with that next week? Will they bring Rogers back? It depends on the health of other positions. I get all that. But still, Juju Smith-Schuster is also a winner. Rob asked, do you think Bell will be a sleeper? Will be a steeper next season? I'm not sure what you mean by that. But Carlos asked, is Bell back? I think Le'Veon Bell was certainly a winner. Le'Veon Bell looked like Le'Veon Bell. It sounds stupid to say that. Maybe sounds a little silly, but this is the truth. Le'Veon Bell went out on the field, and he played. He was patient. He hit the holes hard. He had that elusiveness. What we expect when we think of a Le'Veon Bell, a Le'Veon Bell offense, in terms of his ability to catch the ball in the backfield and also run the football, he looked tremendous. But then also James brings up a good point. He says Ben played better today. Ben did play better today. He missed some throws his post-game press conference, and he was really, really mad at himself for missing Martavis Bryant over the middle. They ended up having to punt. I believe that was the third down play after the Mike Hilton interception, but I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. He was really, really angry at that play. And so but ultimately he did exactly what I and others suggested. He took what the defense gave them. His numbers weren't mind-boggling, but you know what? They don't have to be mind-boggling in this offense. He made to Juju Smith-Schuster. He had a couple big throws to Martavis Bryant to get him down to the red zone. They ran the ball well. That's a recipe for success. And I guarantee if you ask Ben Roethlisberger, look, you're only going to get sacked one time. You're only going to throw over 26 times, but you're going to rush the ball for 140 plus, and you're going to win the game. He would take out about it every single time. I guarantee you. So Ben Roethlisberger, much improved. He did make my winners literally, was a big part of the offense today and played a really smart game. Okay. So Rob, I'm sorry, I couldn't understand your question. He said, will Bell be a Steeler next season, or will he go elsewhere? I think he will, because the Steelers have the ability to still franchise tag him again if they want. Now, they'd be paying him roughly $14 million next year if he does play under the franchise tag. But a lot of it will come down to how he plays this year in terms of how much he thinks he's worth at the end of the season. We know that he reportedly, and again, that's reportedly, turned down a very lucrative contract this year. Will that change? Will have yet to be seen. But I think he'll at least be back next season, barring injury or barring, really poor play or off the field issues. Who knows? But as of right now, the way where he stands, I think he will be back next year. Chris asks, is Antonio Brown becoming a distraction? And I guess he's referring to his CBS caught him on camera. He threw a Gatorade jug and was upset. He's a playmaker, and that's exactly what Ben Roethlisberger said in his post-game press conference. That's what Le'Veon Bell said. They both said it when they were asked about Antonio Brown's, I guess you can call them antics on the sideline. But ultimately, he's not a distraction. He's a playmaker. He wants the ball. I mean, I hate to quote Keyshawn Johnson, but he wrote a book called Give Me the Damn Ball. That's what receivers are like. He was open on that play. He thought Roethlisberger should have seen him and looked his way. He didn't. What are you going to do? Antonio Brown, though, is a playmaker. He's the guy you want to keep happy. But at the same time, I thought Ben played it well today. He threw it who was open. He didn't force it. So, yeah, there you go. Another comment about the Patriots. Yeah, that's something I'm going to write about. The Patriots lose today. They lost to the Panthers on a last-second field goal. They say does a focus shift to Kansas City or stay with New England? I have to be honest. It's hard as a fan not to look ahead and to look at these other AFC teams and kind of wonder, okay, this, that, or the other. We're also just fit through the first quarter of the season. The Steelers' number one focus still has to be to win the division. And it may seem like a cakewalk with the fact that the Steelers are 3-1, the Ravens are 2-2, Cleveland hasn't won a game, and the Bengals are 1-3 because they played the Browns. So it's easy to say that, for some of this stuff, but the fact that the Patriots lost is big. It's big. It is really big. They're 2-2. The Steelers are now 3-1. Later in the year, but now all of a sudden you're looking at the Patriots and like the Buffalo Bills are 2-2. They're not going to be an easy win for the Patriots. If you look at the AFC North, how it's shaping up, even a little further down the road, if you're looking at the Kansas City Chiefs, the AFC West is probably one of the most competitive divisions in the National Football League. So you kind of weigh all that together, and it's going to be really interesting, but the Steelers have to stay like a focus group today. They look like they put all the nonsense, the fiasco that happened last week, also, on and off to them. That was a good sign. Another question here. Brian asks, is it Debo's last year? He's referring to James Harrison. I unfortunately do think it's his last year. He was reportedly sick on Friday, was not at the team facility. There's a bug going around the team. So my guess is that they might have told him to stay home, get well, don't spread this thing any more than it already has. I hope that was the case because James Harrison, although he might not be playing as much, is still a very important part of the team. He's someone that they could possibly lean on down the stretch, even though a lot of fans think that the way they're using him now is not correct. But with that said, I think that the Pittsburgh Steelers would be smart to definitely keep him in the mix. We'll see how they use him and whether he's available next week. I'm sure he will be back with Heinz Field. But TJ Watt, he looked good again today. He didn't make the splash plays, had a good pass defense in the fourth quarter. Big tackle for loss and a key third down. He's making plays. He's a hustle guy. That's what a lot of people like. So Rob asked, why are we not putting up 30 points per game when we have so much talent? What's the issue with the offense? I think in the second half, and it was one of my losers, was the fact that the second half play calling was just really, really bad. Run, pass. They never mixed it up. And a team like Baltimore and a defense like Baltimore is certainly going to make adjustments. That's what I didn't understand. They're going to make adjustments. You're just going to be able to go out and do the same thing over and over again and see the same results. So with that said, that it was the play calling that kind of did the Steelers in the second half. They still had 8 penalties. That was certainly on the losers column. So, that's my prediction. That's what I think happened in the second half. But they should have put up more points. But what was the final score? I think was 26-9. So they still put up 26 points against that defense, which is a good defense, mind you. That's still pretty good. Here, going through all these comments here on Facebook. I appreciate all the comments here. If you're listening on podcast form or if you're listening on YouTube, I apologize. We're eventually going to have a chat room up for that as well for our live YouTube podcast and things of that nature. I'm sorry, the Bills are 3-1, Zach. Thank you for the correction. So they're actually first place in that AFC East. I wonder when the last time the Patriots weren't in first place after the first 4 games in the season. That's something I'm not going to look up. I'm not going to rest in question. Danny says, please talk about the play calling. It's too predictable. I kind of just talked about that. Rob asked, am I concerned with the run defense? Yes and no. Not every offense is really good at that stretch run play that seems to plague the Steelers' defense. But yeah, it's troubling. Some of those holes were gaping. I don't know what the final number was in terms of statistics that the Steelers. I don't have that in front of me currently, but I'll tell you what. They stopped the run except for those 2 scrimmage in the first half and a big run in the third quarter. So it's still, they're still ironing out the kinks. I think that just like the offense, it's a work in progress. I think the defense is just further along than the offense is at this point. That's a good question by Carlos. He said, Ben mentioned not focusing on Antonio Brown. Did he avoid Brown too much today? It's possible. It's possible, but I don't think that's ever a bad thing and defense gives you. So we'll see if that continues to happen. But we'll see what the offensive play calling and it depends on what the defense does. The Baltimore Ravens have always taken an approach to the Steelers game, which is you bracket Antonio Brown, don't let him beat you. Look at Antonio Brown's numbers outside of the Christmas Day game last year against the Ravens. It's never been very good because of that. That's because the defense does that. So Roethlisberger spread the ball around well. Bell out of the backfield, he had 4 receptions. Had Juju Smith-Schuster with 3. Martavis Bryant with 3, and 2 of those were huge catches on a scoring drive. So he did a good job of just taking what the defense gave him. That's something that I preached big time this week, as well as others. So let's hear a couple more here before we call this one a day. David asked, Todd Haley must go. What do you think? I don't think it's that they're at that point yet. I think that everyone is trying to get out there to feel, okay, what's going on? How do we want this offense to look? Today in week 4 was a really good example of what they should be looking for on a weekly basis. If you can get a quick lead, you're going to be able to set up the defense for success, but you have to still keep a defense on its toes and not be predictable. Brian asked my thoughts on Joe Hayden. When you're not talking about Steelers cornerbacks, and let's be honest, the only cornerback we're talking about is Mike Hilton because he's making so many plays. No one's talking about Artie Burns. No one's talking about Joe Hayden. And you can talk about the quarterbacks they faced, DeShone Kizer, Case Keenum, Mike Glennon and now a really shaky Joe Flacco. I don't care. They're stopping that. They're not allowing receptions. And Joe Hayden allowed no receptions on one target last week. I don't think he gave up a reception today. He might have in that garbage time drive at the end of the game. He's playing well. The step. They have Blake Bortles coming to town next week, but tougher tests await them. Whether it's even Alex Smith and the Chiefs coming up, whether it's Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Matthew Stafford, all these quarterbacks that are considered elite and are playing good football are still on track. So right now, the cornerbacks are doing their job. Talking about the cornerbacks, that is a really, really good thing. Someone said, love the podcast and post, keep it up. Thank you. I appreciate that. It was good to see. Bill asked about the interception with Antonio Brown. I got to be honest, I have no idea. This is what the NFL stated. The NFL stated that he never had possession of the ball. So even though to everyone that was watching the football game saw him catch the football with the football, and as he's going to the ground, it looked like he was losing possession even though his arm was down. Had possession. So therefore, it was almost like he was bobbling the ball as he was going to the ground. Since he never had possession of the ball to begin with, when the ball popped up in the air and Eric Weddle caught it, it was deemed an interception. Ruled that. I think that's garbage. You watching this probably think that's garbage, or listening to this probably. But at the same time, the Steelers defense held them to a field goal off that. That was the start of the third quarter for the Pittsburgh Steelers. It was a bad quarter, and they weathered that storm. So that's kudos to the Steelers on my part. That's a play that can unravel a team, but they got it together, and they kept it together. So there you go. There you have it. So, folks, what you need to understand about today's game is it wasn't pretty, but you know what? Going into M&T Bank Stadium and winning is not easy. It's not easy for anybody. It's not easy for the Patriots. It's certainly not easy for the Steelers. And the Steelers went in there, and they did what they should have done against a subpar team. The Ravens are banged up. They're not the Ravens that we're used to seeing, but the Steelers prevailed. Defense led the way, and if that's the way they have to win in 2017, defense is up for it. But I think that this was a huge step forward for the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. I think that this is on pace to being really, really tough to beat down the stretch. It might be frustrating now, but when it comes down to the second half of the season, when these games are huge, I really, really think that this team could be a really good, tough team to beat. They already are that team, in my opinion, but they could be even better. So after the first quarter of the season, the Steelers are 3-1. They have sole possession of first place in the AFC North. And you know what? If you're a fan that stuck around after the fiasco that was last week, I think you're going to be really happy to be an exciting season. We hope that you stick with BehindTheSteelCurtain.com for all your Pittsburgh Steelers news. One-stop shop. That's what we want. We want to be your one-stop shop for Pittsburgh Steelers. The editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. You'll be with me all season. Make sure you check us out on Facebook as well as on all our other platforms, Twitter, radio, YouTube. Yeah, there you go. First place, Steelers, AFC North after 4 weeks. We'll see you next time. Bye.